Hello and welcome back to the Four Elements Press LGBTQ author series. I'm Alexander Casillas, and today we have a special author. We're going to be talking with Angelica Martinez, author of Livin La Vida Loba, and this is a series published by Four Elements Press. So we'll get an exclusive interview from Angelica, hear a little bit about her and a little bit about her inspiration for writing and about Livin La Vida Loba. Welcome, Angelica. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well, thank you.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey in writing Livin La Vida Loba.
Well, I've always been a storyteller since I was really young. My mom and I would sometimes travel, and to kill time, she'd be like, "Okay, mija, tell me a story." And so I'd tell her, something random like the Powerpuff Girls, and I would make up the storylines. And then after like seven chapters, she'd be like, "Okay, mija, let's take a break." So I'm pretty used to kind of coming up with stories on the fly. And I fell in love with poetry and with stories from a young age. I first learned how to read in Spanish, and then from there, I asked my mom to take me to the library because I wanted to read in English. And so I taught myself how to read in English. And so my love of literature and books has been a long time coming. My inspiration for this book is by and large my own experiences and also my family's experiences, because it's about her family as well as her own struggles with mental health.
Yeah. Well, I know Selena's story pretty well at this point. She's a character I've fallen in love with. And how have because you have written a little bit about your own experiences outside of writing the novel. How does Selena kind of capture the different parts of you, or what type of message are you trying to convey through her, maybe mental health struggles or other struggles?
Well, I think what I'm trying to convey is to open up the conversation about mental health since it's very much stigmatized, not just in our American culture, but also our Latino American culture and or Latinx culture, I should say. And it's something that I've been really passionate about because I think had there been less stigma, I might have been diagnosed sooner correctly. Because I was first diagnosed with depression, and she also exhibits signs of depression and anxiety and PTSD and bipolar, as you later find out. And I feel like she kind of holds my neuroses, but also my sassiness. Because there are moments where she is like as quick as a whip and she gives it right back to you. And I feel like that's how I've been able to cope with really difficult and dark times is my sense of humor. And I hope you get that also by reading this book is not just, oh, it's dark and depressing. Like there's also moments of levity and humor in it as well.
Yeah, there is always like a sense that there is a destination, even if you don't quite know if it's going to be great or uh, fearful,
Yeah.
to say the least. Um, I like how you also bring up culture when talking about how Selena and yourself kind of manage different aspects of life. And how does I know music is a big one present in the book.
Yes.
What type of like ways have you kind of infused some of your experiences or learnings into the story?
Well, it kind of starts with Tío Julio's rules, because I thought I always had a lot of rules growing up, which I'm sure a lot of Latinx people can relate to. Like, don't, well, come home before it gets dark, or leave with a sweater, or call me when you get there, or I need to meet your friend's parents, like all these things. And so that was kind of instilled in my head, like, okay, rules are important. And then also with kind of surviving with bipolar disorder and trying to thrive with it, there are a lot of like rules as well. Like there are certain things you can and can't do, like especially if you're on medication. Like sleep is important, exercise is important. You shouldn't drink or do other drugs when you're taking your medicine. Um, so I thought, what's a way I can introduce certain rules of that nature in a way that's more fun and in a book that's kind of a narrative around that. And so that's kind of the framework of the book.
Yeah, and I can see like a lot of the parallels between um like even the werewolf aspect of Selena's story and her changes that she's going through in those physical ways and other ways. Um, and then kind of also juxtaposed to the mental health aspects as well. And also how, a lot of the times too, it could be a physical experience in our body that might be causing different mental health aspects as well.
Yes. I think for me, it was partially because my first manic episode did involve a lot of physicality to it. And that was because I was, um, what's it called? I was experiencing a flare-up of my chronic pain that I didn't know I had. And so while I was losing my brain, like my body was just at level 9 pain. And I kept trying to communicate that to like the health workers, but they kind of ignored me and were like, oh, this is just a part of you're hallucinating or whatever. They didn't tell me that, but I could tell that that was like the vibe that was happening at the moment.
Okay.
Um, and so I kind of felt like, is this what a werewolf would feel like when they're transforming? Like, is this the kind of level of pain they would go through? Because their bones are like moving around and they're developing a tail and all this stuff. And so I always kind of had that in the back of my brain, like, what would happen if a werewolf was a metaphor for bipolar disorder because of all the like mood changes that happen, especially like related to the moon. I even did research on like there are more ER hospital visits on the full moon, whether it's for violent crimes or for psychiatric help. It's a weird
Wow.
phenomenon that happens. And so that kind of inspired this book as well, and kind of led me down that path.
Yeah, well, in the novella, you capture it very well, to say the least.
Thank you.
Um, and I love also how throughout the text, Selena's like progress and even also like pitfalls in kind of managing this new life, also kind of in a more rural setting, away from her home in the city, um, coming up. And I I'm interested too in also your own, I guess, kind of family or cultural experiences and how those inform some of the characters or events in this story, because the characters are all so very real.
Yeah, I kind of go by the old adage, write what you know. And I know my family very well, and they know me very well. And so all the characters in the novella are archetypes based on my own family members. So, the Tia Marisol, who, can't really whisper, and she's the chismosa. I have a tia like that. Um, the Tío who smokes a pack and is kind of like has a wry sense of humor. I have a Tío like that. He doesn't smoke, but he is very much that silent type that when he says something, you better listen. Um, and then of course the beloved Tío Julio, I have a tío that's just like that. And it is like a love letter to his character and to him because he helped raise me. And that's also part of this book. He helps raise Selena in her most vulnerable time of turning into a werewolf, but also all her mental health stuff. And even though my uncle missed that part of my life, he is like a big supporter of mine and is like my rock. So I felt like he was crucial to writing this story. And of course, her mother is based off my mother. Her father is based off my father. So maybe not original, but I tried to kind of embellish some of their characteristics because it's not 100% a carbon copy of who they are. There's a lot of exaggeration to make it interesting and to add drama, but that's kind of who they're all based on.
Yeah. I think part of the success in their characters too is like the way that the characters communicate with each other. There is like a lot said, but a lot unsaid, and a lot of things that like characters say to each other that like is in their own type of language. Like they can say three sentences and get to the heart the of what's going on or what is really wrong inside the other character. And I think I don't know, like I don't know if it's just a part of like Hispanic culture, but in Hispanic culture, I feel like there's very a very like we're transparent to each other almost in the way that like our family can kind of see through us.
Yes. I definitely feel like there is a lot of nonverbal communication that happens in that family, in my novella. And I think even though it is a part of our community, I think it's also just a part of the human condition. Like sometimes your family just knows you, and it's hard to hide when they know you so well. And so when something's wrong, it's like you want to be by yourself and isolate, but it's really hard to do that when they can read you like a book. And that and that's something I've experienced as well because when I was having, my issues with grief or with my mental health struggles, my mom immediately knew something was wrong, even though she didn't know what was wrong, but she knew something was wrong. And so I think hopefully people can resonate with that family experience.
Yeah, and also like the aspects of maybe the adults kind of in our lives too also have their own limitations. And, sometimes it takes a lot of work on both ends to kind of get to a place where you can find resolution in things. I think that's a big testament to kind of the story in general, too. So now, also going on to get degrees in creative writing and becoming a teacher and things like that take a lot of work too. How have those experiences also kind of shaped you? And maybe does that kind of does that background play into you choosing to write like a young adult story too?
Yes, I think it does. I fell in love with young adult writing as a young adult, in middle school and high school because I felt like, okay, yes, the classics are good, but you want something relatable. And as a high school teacher, as a middle school teacher, I felt like there's a need for books that have emotionally complex characters, especially from the Latinx community. They need to feel represented and that it's okay and that it's safe to be different. And I feel like nowadays it's stigmatized or cringe to, step outside the box and be different. but I feel like this book kind of speaks to the difference in all of us and that it's okay. Um, but yeah, I definitely felt like this book was needed as a teacher. I worked with special education students, and a lot of them had emotional disabilities. And so I definitely felt like if I were to give them this book, they would probably resonate with a lot of parts of her story.
Yeah, and well, this is just one episode in her very complex life, so I expect like a lot more um help and advice and experiences in in Selena's future to kind of show us even more aspects of different parts of life. And I think that's something that you capture really well in the way that, Selena is a complex character, but she's so like strong in herself and like determined in herself that like even going back to like what I said before, like you always know there's a destination, even if you don't know kind of like what you're hoping for Selena,
Yeah.
you know like she's gonna get there one way or another, and it's gonna be like a hopeful resolution, hopefully. I mean, it gets scary, but I think it is something young readers can relate to a little bit more than, something written maybe 50 years ago too.
Yeah.
And I think that like having more books like this in the curriculum will do exactly like what you said, kind of be a mirror for more people. And
Yeah.
even just a mirror for people who can benefit from reading a story about a character who is so strong in herself. Because like anyone can be like her as a hero, you know?
Yeah. And I think it kind of asks us to be strong and to be bold in our own lives. Um, And I sometimes view main characters as like aspirational, like they aren't always super flawed. Sometimes, I mean, she definitely is flawed, but you know, there's aspects of her that I strive to be in my life because I was never that rebellious teenager. If anything, I was a rebellious, late 20s or and so it took me a while to get to that point, but I hope that it brings that desire to, strive for their goals. Whoever reads the book, whether you're an adult or you're a teenager or a middle schooler, um, and that you feel just as determined as Selena.
Yeah, I like that too, because a lot of the times, like when we're young, we kind of see these goals and they're so aspirational in ways that maybe like we can't even like imagine them not being because
Yeah,
we're just so kind of like believing in things.
yeah,
But Selena, she sets goals for herself that are within the realm of like her life at the moment in a very young way, in a way that like, we did when we were so young.
yeah,
And, even if she doesn't see, all the way past college and all of that, she's still kind of like she's conscious of like, no, I want to be something in this world. I want to be something big. I want to be, yeah, and that's like the conflict between like living in the city and living in the rural area. She's like, I love my like I might not have much. I might not be the, most popular person in school. I might not have everything, but I have what I have and I have what I know. And I have people around me that I do care about, even if I get annoyed seeing them all the time.
yeah. And that is life
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, you want to talk like specifically about like Tío Julio a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, in this story, he is a gay farmer slash werewolf, and he isn't exactly closeted, but he isn't exactly super open about his sexuality either. And there's a scene where she asks him if he's gay, and he says, "Yes, do you have a problem with it?" And she's like, "No, you're just the first gay person I've ever met." And that conversation actually happened in my own life. And I feel like there are a lot of kids that might be able to relate to that because who doesn't have, a gay tío or tía in their lives and, become curious about it and just like an innocent curiosity. And so that's kind of what I wanted to portray as just a tidbit about his character, but not the defining feature of who he is. Because he's so much deeper of a character and more complex of a character. He's not a stereotype. He's not there as like comedic relief, even though there are comedic relief moments. He's not the butt of the joke. It's kind of, I tried to be respectful in my representation of who he is as a character because he is so beloved to me, especially as writing him. And he also struggles with mental health issues, just like his niece, which can be genetic, it can be hereditary, but it could also be from like family patterns and dysfunction and trauma. And that's kind of what I wanted to come across is that, we come in all shapes and sizes in the Latinx community, and you can't really say, oh, I've met one gay person, I know all gay people. Like, I know exactly how they're going to be like because we're all different. And I wanted him to be a unique character and show how hardworking he is, especially with the farmer aspect. He runs it all by himself. And then finally, here comes this, little teenager that he now has to take care of, and he's annoyed by it, but he loves her because she's family. And that's kind of how it was with my relationship with my uncle. My mom would sometimes drop me off at his house early in the morning when my nanny wouldn't show up, and he'd be like, "Really?" But he would do it because that's what you do for family. And um, I don't know where I was going with this, but basically, there is a lot of love between Selena and her uncle, just like there's a lot of love between me and my uncle. And I wanted that to be kind of represented in this book because, especially when you hear proponents against gay marriage or against gay people adopting, it's like this is proof that they can take care of children, that they are capable of love. And it sh we shouldn't like prejudge people just based off one criteria.